you some things. I don't need to give you myself on the weekend. I don't need to give you myself on Sunday, but I give you myself today. Today, I give you myself. That is what truly devoted followers of Christ do. They devote themselves to God, saying it can be done. It can be done. And so now we see that he starts to drown. And Jesus picks him up out of the water, brings him back to the boat, and he says, why do you doubt? Why do you doubt my goodness? Why do you doubt my grace? You say that you are devoted to me, so why do you doubt? Why do you have doubts in your mind that you cannot succeed? Why do you have doubts in your mind that what you are hoping for will not come true? Why do you doubt? Why do you doubt that everything I have done for you is because I love you? Why do you doubt? And God asks us this question. Why do you doubt? And I know today I'm asking you guys today. Why do you doubt God's goodness? Why do you doubt His grace, His mercy? If we devote ourselves to Him, there is no doubting. If you devote yourself to God and you wish that you have this job that pays well, it will happen. It might not be in the way that you think, but it will happen. Maybe you're praying for a new car. Or not really like a new car, like a Corvette, but like a Subaru. Or whatever it might be. Or you're asking God for that new promotion. When we devote ourselves to God, there is no doubting His. There is no doubting His goodness. There is no doubting His grace, because we have put our trust, our hope, our everything into God, into our being. And so we say to Him, there is no doubt among us. Why do you doubt? Why do you doubt? And so they doubted God. They doubted God even after they said, I devote myself to Him. They started to doubt Him. So I'm here to tell you guys, do not doubt His goodness. Because when you devote your everything into Him, when you say, I give my life to you, use me, do not doubt Him. Because we don't often know what He's going to do. We don't often know how the story is going to play out. Let me tell you guys a story that I heard in church. And the story starts out like this. There was an older man. And you know the story of Noah and how there was a flood. And so we see that this guy lived in like Wyoming or wherever there's massive floods, and it started to flood there. Not like just little drips, but it was like a flash flood. And this older gentleman, the older gentleman says, I have faith, God will save me. I have faith, God will save me. And so we see that the story continues. That after some time, people started to leave. And they started to get into the cars, and they asked the man, come with us. And the guy says, no thanks. I believe God will save me. So the water started to rise. And the water started to get higher. And so a guy passing in a boat saw him in his house. And he says, come on, jump in my boat. And the guy says, no thanks. I believe God will save me. And so the story continues, so the water started to get higher. And we see that people start to see him, and they were like, come into my boat. And he's like, no thanks. So the water started to get so high that he had to go up to his roof. And so we see that a helicopter spotted him. And the guy says, come on, get into the helicopter. And the guy says, no thanks. I believe God will save me. And then the guy dies. And the guy asks God, he says, why didn't You saved me. And God says, I did. I sent a car. I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter. What else more do you want me to do? And that's often God, isn't it? But we don't often know how God is going to deliver us. We don't often know how God is going to use us. We don't often know these things, but what we do know is that God will save us if we devote ourselves to Him. And so when we say, I devote myself to you, and that way, in such a way that when a car comes, a boat comes, a helicopter comes, that we will get in the boat, we will get in the helicopter without fear, without doubt, because we know that God was the one who sent it. We don't often know how God is going to use us, but what we do know is that we don't need to fear. We don't need to doubt His goodness. We don't need to doubt His grace. Because if we devote ourselves to one another and love one another as the church, as a community, as the body of Christ, that there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. There is nothing that we cannot do because we are devoted followers of Christ. And so some of you guys today might be wondering, how can I become devoted? How can I become a devoted follower of Christ? And this is how. This is how you can become a devoted follower of Christ. Is simply lead by example. Simple as that. Lead by example. When you are devoted to something, when you are passionate about something, share that. It might be that you're passionate about music, might be passionate about speaking, might be passionate about arts, might be passionate about motorcycles or even like bicycles, or it could be cars. Share your passion, because when you are devoted, that's something not to be kept. It's something to be shared, so that other people can know that you're devoted. And when you're a devoted follower of Christ, God says, go into the world and teach what I have taught to you today in this life. He says we will have trouble. We will have pain. But when we are devoted, there is no doubt. When we are devoted, there is no shame. When we are devoted, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. There's nothing that we cannot accomplish. There's nothing that we cannot do. So just like Peter walking on the water, he had no doubts. He had no worries. He was devoted. Do not lose sight of God, because that's the number one thing that we can do. Is we end up losing sight of God. We end up losing sight of the things that matter. Be devoted to something that matters. And so, as I start to wrap up this message series, I want to leave you guys with a few thoughts. The first thought is this, is that if we are devoted, why do we lose focus? Why do we lose focus? And I believe that to answer this question, you need to truly ask yourself, is it your circumstance? Is it something in your personal life, an addiction? What things draw you away from God? That's the first thing. The second thing is today, is that if we are devoted, why don't we share it? If we are devoted to something, if we are devoted to God, God says, go into the world and teach what I have taught to you. Why keep that? Share it. The third thing is when we are devoted, it's not just that we are devoted to ourselves, but it's devoted to God. When we are devoted to God, we are devoted to love. We are devoted to love and love one another as ourselves. Because God says, I have loved you so that you will love others. I have loved you from the very beginning. There was not a moment that I did not love you. There was not a moment that I took my eye off you. There was not a moment that I did not say that you are loved. So when we are devoted, it's not just being devoted to ourselves, but it's being devoted to God. Being devoted to God. When we devote ourselves to His teaching, to His word, we will grow. But if we do not devote ourselves to His teaching, to His word, to His findings, we will not grow. We will never become one of the Spirit. We will never become one with God if we do not devote ourselves. Devote yourselves to His teachings. And so when we share our passions, when we don't doubt, we build up a community. And what is this community? This community is non-doubting, devoted followers of Christ. And so today, maybe some of you today are thinking, I want to be a part of this community. I want to be a part of this devoted community. All you have to do is say, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this. I want to devote myself to God, to His teaching, to His word, to everything that I am. That is all you need to do. There is no baptism. There is no holy grail. There is no sermon. It's just you and God saying, you know what? I want this. Because when we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Christ devoted Himself to this world, to His 12 disciples, to His teaching, to loving and caring for other people up until the day He died. He never stopped being devoted to Christ, or to God. And when we were sinning, and certainly not a fan, and we were doing all these nasty things, Christ still looked up to God, and He said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. That is how devoted He was. He didn't get down up off that cross and be like, I'm not down for you guys. You guys are ungrateful. He didn't cast us all to hell. He didn't get down off that cross and say, you know what? There's no more free will. But what did He do? Instead, He died for us. He died so that we could live. He died so that the things that we are passionate about may become reality. When we are devoted, it's not just that we are devoted to ourselves, but that we are devoted to Christ. We are devoted to a cause. So do not lose sight of what you're devoted to. Because what you are devoted to drives you. And what drives you motivates you. So do not lose hope. Do not lose passion. Do not lose sight of the wonders that God has set up for you today. In this moment. And so I do end the message series with, what would you guys do? But I know what you guys do. You guys follow God with everything you have in you. And so last week I asked you guys, what are you devoted to? Yeah, our dogs can be devoted. Yeah, our favorite football teams can be devoted. But when it comes to faith, followers, and family members, what are you devoted to? And so this week's is be devoted to what matters. Yeah, our dogs can be devoted to what matters. Yeah, our football teams can be devoted to what matters. But when it comes to faith, followers, and family members, be devoted to what matters. And so with all that in your head, with all that going around, will you let me pray for all of you today? God, you're a gracious God. Lord, so thank you so much for who you are and what you've done. Lord, I just want to come before you today, Lord, just to thank you. Lord, to thank you, to honor you, to praise you, Lord. You have called us to be devoted. You've called us to be magnificent. You've made us into magnificent people. So, Lord, help us to be devoted. Help us to know you. Lord, as we are going through this tough time, Lord, help us not to hide our devotions, but instead share them. Lord, help us not to doubt, but instead to keep our eyes on you as we become devoted followers of Christ. And Lord, I just want to come before you today, Lord. Anyone today who is a devoted follower of Christ, Lord, help us to keep our eyes on the prize. Lord, you have called us out upon the water. So, Lord, help us to not fall.